The next one is Spreydon-Cashmere Community Board. Welcome.
You're right. We have a karakia from Arahanui Grace at the beginning of each of our meetings, followed by a waiata sung by the board, led by Grace and Sol Smith. And selfishly, they were away on disaster duties this last board meeting, and we had to look at each other because there isn't one of us who's confident in even singing a short waiata. So we didn't have it there. So I think Grace should never be removed and taken away for disaster. We've got two Part A's. We've got Summerfield school zones coming up, and the reason why Tim was so alert in asking about the budget is because two just happened to be in our ward. The two next ones happen to be in our ward, Summerfield School and South Christchurch, both of which need it, and we look forward to that discussion. And the next resolution is somewhat redundant now, given the actions that the council has taken, but it was about the establishment of an umbrella disaster committee to coordinate the volunteers, the governance people, the owners of the land, the governance of the land, etc., on the Port Hills, to coordinate all of them in the recovery, which is happening and which is terrific. But those are the two Part A's that will be put to the council. One of the things I asked to be included, we haven't got pictures. Where's that woman? She's still here. God, we'll have to do something about that.
She set a very high bar.
And she has set a very high bar, and how dare she do it when she's brand new? It's completely sickening. I asked to be in the ward report to be enclosed a letter from John Cousins, who's the chairperson of the Craycroft Residents Association, and he wrote a lovely letter in the paper thanking everyone concerned with the disaster right across the range, not just the fire service but everybody else, civil defence, city council staff and so on. And I'm glad he wrote that, and I phoned him to congratulate him on writing it, and it is there in your papers. We've had a heartfelt deputation on the mistakes that are being made in the maintenance in the parks. We have a group that voluntarily plant in Ernley, but also we have other groups voluntarily planting elsewhere. And these had a heck of a lot of their plants completely destroyed, with strimmers being somewhat inaccurate in terms of taking out plantings that had just happened. Some of the plants actually are several years old, and they were completely destroyed by the people who were meant to be doing maintenance. I asked this person, one of the people who came to our deputation, because she was so committed and has been so committed for so long in volunteer planting, I asked her to appear before the council, to come and appear before the council, because she's a very effective speaker about what's happened to plants when the maintenance goes wrong. But she won't do it. She says that we're just as good at representing her views, but we're not. And we can't tell you the distress it causes when grown plants are destroyed by people with their strimming machines and who are just meant to be cutting grass. We are having a meeting with staff, and the park staff are doing their very, very best to keep some control of the workers doing this work, and it's no blame on them for what is happening. But nonetheless, we're looking at trees that have been planted by volunteers that have been destroyed in a second. And the deputation that came before the board was sad and depressing to hear. West Spreydon School, the wonderful West Spreydon School, which has already got one of the largest playgrounds in Christchurch, had a pool installed in 1933, and in 2011 they opened a brand new refurbishment of the pool with a beautiful, they've got a DVD of it, and it's beautiful. It's a summer's day and it's children in pools laughing and dancing. It's hot All the parents are there. It's wonderful, and it was on Waitangi Day 2011. So we all know what happened after that. They have now bought a new pool that they're importing from America that can withstand, it's on a boat, that can withstand earthquakes, can be yanked out of the ground after an earthquake, repaired and put back into the ground. And they have raised $700,000, and they are not a rich school. And they've raised $700,000, and we had a meeting at the school a couple of weeks ago, and all they want is another 200. Like that. It'll be easy. And it is led by the wonderful Dwayne Major, who bought the beach, and he and his committee and the school are working so hard to raise the final bits of money that will, these will be the surrounds of the pool, the changing sheds and the filter system to work to get that pool back into that community. And they were very quick to point out that this will be a community pool with tickets available to anybody in the community who would like to have them, not just the West Spreydon School community. I mentioned accessibility in this ward report again. I probably will be putting it in all the time, but I want to make sure that notwithstanding the expense of the cycleways and the importance of them, and our board is especially pleased with the cycleways and the impact it's having on our community. It is having a beneficial influence on our community. And just for example, on the latest one, which they're consulting on tonight, they're going down Domain Terrace, and there is a cycleway, a shared footpath cycleway that goes across Domain Park between Hoonhay and Spreydon, which is used a lot. And the slope up to getting back on the road in Domain Terrace is too steep for wheelchairs. So I asked the staff if, while they're doing that and looking at the installation of the cycleway down Domain Terrace, if they could make that slope more accessible for wheelchairs, so that not only pedestrians and cyclists can use that cycleway, but so can people in a chair. And I'd just like to say again that whatever we do shouldn't impede the accessibility of the city to those people who aren't cyclists and perhaps are not pedestrians and certainly aren't in cars, just to make sure that all of us can get where we need to go. The Selwyn Street shops, we had a terrific, this was such an example of staff competence. We had a terrific presentation on the Selwyn Street shops by people who sounded as though they'd been born there. They knew every inch of it. You know, when they mentioned shops, they said 2 feet from that doorway there is this, and then up there's this, and they knew everything about it. Notwithstanding the project's been postponed, which they mentioned to us at the end of the gripping presentation, that it's postponed in the long-term plan. Notwithstanding that, we were thrilled to get the presentation because it was just so competent and knowledgeable about the Selwyn Street shops, and they had listened so much to the community. And notwithstanding the fact that we're not going to get all the parking back that some of the community might want, they certainly improved the parking and other access issues for people in the thing. The only thing I'd also say about the Selwyn Street shops, though, is that every one of you have seen how derelict it looks. When we drive past on the Brougham Street motorway, we are looking at weeds. And they are not the council's fault, they're private property. And I just wish that we could persuade the poor private owner of that particular property, who has lost everything and has not got the money to recover when the earthquake happened, to do some weeding around that area, because it does make Selwyn look extremely depressing and is not welcoming to people who might want to build or put in a business in that particular area. And then finally, another kudos for the staff. We've got great signs going round Ngāpunawai Ponds, where a drainage scheme is going in conjunction with the athletics park, which Leanne opened 10 days ago. And the drainage and development of the drainage and the staff doing the development of the Ngāpunawai have combined together, and that a part of the development of these prevention of flooding measures is making the ponds bigger, the pond and the park bigger. And you appreciate how important it is for the ponds to be bigger when you saw the helicopters coming in and dropping their buckets into every single bit of water in the Port Hills. Ponds, swimming pools, every single bit of water was accessed by the helicopters. And when I now look at Ngāpunawai, and I think that some of the uses that will be put to, we had not thought of before the disaster on the Port Hills. But so that pond's going to be widened and broadened. But the important thing I wanted to raise was that there are signs all around Ngāpunawai pointing out to the walkers and the dog walkers and the people who go through those parks the reason why this project is existing, which is to help prevent flooding in Christchurch. And I really encourage this, the staff and the council to think every time we do a project to put a sign up which says in plain language that it's to help Christchurch, to say to people how it is to help Christchurch. Because I think we should do a little bit more advertising of how good the council is and the effort it is putting in to make the recovery affordable, accessible, and an enhancement of our beautiful city. Thank you. That's not the end. Mel.
I never quite know how it's going to run, so that's good. There we had one event that one recent event about Addington, St Mary's Church in Addington, which had its 150th year anniversary. So I went along to that. It was a wonderful occasion, like they always are in Addington. And it became apparent that I didn't know that the bell tower there that was dedicated to Richard Seddon is actually, the stairway is beginning to sort of slope, and so they're worried about having a bell tower that's a bit like the Tower of Pisa. So they're looking to fundraise. So it's something that we will keep in our vision into the future. Another thing the board is working on is visiting boards of trustees, which is something that we haven't done before, as far as I've been aware. And so we've got some meetings already lined up to go to schools such as Hill Morton, but we're looking to go to every single school and just to hear what the board's worries are and concerns and things that they're looking forward to as well in the ward. So we're wanting to do that. And a recent thing it was in a recent meeting, but we've, along with the idea about pools, is we had Sarah McKenzie, who was behind when Barrington Park Playground was, you remember when that was burnt, and then the funding happened and people put sponsorship towards it, and then the council put money towards getting that repaired very rapidly. She's wanting to have a paddling pool within our ward for free access again to water for kids. So it's something that she's presented about and we're thinking about for Barrington Park when the refurbishment happens. So just to let you know about that in advance. And the last thing really is that the community board executive councils are part of the national LGNZs. Those are council representatives, and there's also ones for the community board at that committee. So I'm the Zone 5 rep now, which goes from Waitaki all the way up to the top of the South Island. So we've had all the community board chairs know that, so I guess I'm the conduit now instead of Mike Mora, so to that sort of national body. So if there's anything to do with community boards, I'm going to be feeding it back and forwards, and at the conference as well, which is coming up, that's obviously being advertised in the 11th to 13th of May. So that's
Thank you.
Very good. Excellent. You'd like to move it?
I'll move it.
And seconded by Tim. Is it? Yep.
Yeah, just make
Phil?
Carolyn and Melanie have given a wide-ranging report. One feature which they touched on too is around that Port Hills recovery planning, which does have a part A here, and the request from the group was that it be multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, so that the different groups with a wide range of expertise be involved together. And that is happening gradually. So, but I think it's important that I guess what we've learned is just how attached and how important the Port Hills are for us, and in fact this recovery project will be very, very important. So it's great to see our local groups coming to the board straight away, and the board will be an ongoing good conduit for that recovery, alongside council, of course.
I'm just wondering whether the recovery manager is going to do a presentation to your board. Has Murray Sinclair been yet, or
Hasn't been yet, but it's going to happen.
but it's going to happen? Because I think he'll give you some confidence around the way the process is structured under the new legislative framework. So we now at the end of the period for the state of emergency, we then moved into, I gave notice of a transition period, and the transition period has enabled the recovery manager that's appointed by the group to delegate powers to the two recovery managers in both Selwyn and Christchurch, and those that lasts for 28 days. So from the date that we did it. So the reason I'm explaining it to you is that there has been a legal process followed in terms of the new statutory framework for transition to recovery. But Murray's been appointed to lead that work for the city, and it would be great to get him in front of your community board as soon as possible.
Did you say 28 days?
Yeah, 28 days from the date that it was announced, which I think was Wednesday. Was it last week? Wednesday this week? Yeah.
Not this week.
Not this week. Wednesday last week, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We realised that the resolution was somewhat redundant, but they came and saw us really quick, and we thought it was very important.
Yeah. Pauline.
Thank you. Just want to congratulate Melanie for picking up the Zone 5 rep. But just wondering, I didn't know that, and I'm just wondering if something should go out to the community boards advising them of that. But also wondering how the board's members could be encouraged to feed information through to you, or have some sort of conduit there. So whether there's a space on a meeting report once a month that board members can have any concerns forwarded to you.
Yeah.
So
Good idea, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the board chairs know, because I sent them all text messages to.
When did you do that?
Well, probably a month ago.
We see that hasn't
Filtered through to the councillors.
Probably the chairs and the board advisors would probably be good.
It might be a good idea for me to
information.
even visit
And then
each
if we could
board.
get some sort of
Yeah.
mechanism there where the doors are open for communication to flow a little bit easier, because I actually don't think board members know an awful lot about the role of the Zone 5 rep anyway, and how to feed into that.
Yeah.
Might be something you can pick up.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Can I suggest that if the mover and seconder are happy, I'd like to add to the resolution that the report number 19 be referred to the recovery manager, and that way there's actually an action. It's been referred to the recovery manager, and he'll be able to speak to that when he comes to meet with you.
Which will be great.
Yep. Yanni?
Yeah, I mean, it might be good to also just, I guess the recovery manager is going to all the boards, or is there a process for that happening?
All the boards.
Well, maybe the boards that are affected as well. So, like, I know our board would be really keen. Obviously, we take in some of the Port Hills. So,
Not the affected part.
there's some
It's
road, there is
really
some
Hallswell and
issues there.
Spreydon, Heathcote. But in terms of the recovery manager's role, it's just the boards that are affected.
Yeah, but also like the downstream effects on the river is something that has been raised with our board.
Yes, I
And-
know, but he's the recovery manager, and we will. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
That would be good.
Great, thanks.
Right. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried, and we'll come back to the road, the speed zone, in a minute.
Yep. Thank you.